Hello, hello, and welcome to day two of our thyroid hormone reset experience. I am super excited to be here with you. I hope you get some good takeaways. So feel free to take a minute, put in the chat and chime in. You can share with me like what were some of your takeaways? What were some of the things that landed for you yesterday as a result of our discussion about getting to the root cause, really understanding the symptoms that your body is signaling to you, and also replenishing nutrients. We're going to dive into that. So you can take a minute here, get into the chat, type in your biggest takeaways. And while you're doing that, I'm going to have us get grounded, get centered, like we always like to do. So I invite you to close your eyes or take a soft gaze and just take some deep breaths in, breathing in, filling up the abdomen. And exhale, let that all go. Feel your shoulders soften, maybe settle into your seat a little bit more firmly. Another deep breath in. And exhale, putting everything else aside. Any other distractions, any other conversations, any to-do lists, everything gets to be put to the side just for this next hour as you dedicate to your health expansion. One more deep breath in, breathing in, just feeling the abdomen expand, your rib cage widen, and just affirming that your next level breakthrough, your next wealth and abundance gets to come through as a result of up-leveling your health and prioritizing your vitality. And exhale, let that soak in, just wash over you. And one more deep breath in, breathing in, and just affirm energy, possibility, new clarity, and momentum is yours today as a result of being here during this time, or as if you're watching the replay, you're with us as well. And exhale that. Feel that infuse each and every single cell, lighting you up. Oh, all right, coming back together. So good, so good. Let's rub our hands together, activate both the right and left hemispheres of the brain and get going. Okay, so I see we definitely have, okay, made some new recipes last night. I added in protein this morning for my breakfast. Way to go, Michelle. That is awesome. Carol says, I definitely thought about fiber in a new way. Okay, and Gina sharing that she, again, had a conversation takeaway from the protein discussion about vegan and animal-based proteins. So thinking about how to add in more of those. Good, good. Lots of good momentum. Keep them coming, keep sharing. And today we are going to continue this journey and dive into the world of our gut health. Even more powerful is really looking at our microbiome, how this interacts with our hormones. What are some of the considerations? I'm just going to say, so I always like to do, you'll notice about my teaching style, my coaching style is a combo package. So we do look at the physiology and kind of get into some of the details and nuances of hormone physiology and really understanding how the body works. And then also bring the brain science into it. Because at the end of the day, it's about the actions that we can repeat over and over for kind of consistency that truly drive your health and help you to build health. So in order for us to have that consistency, in order for us to have that resiliency, we get to do some rewiring of our patterns. We all have habits, we all have patterns, either their habits are ways of thinking and understanding or expecting, or ways of behaving and acting. So those are going to get to shift in order for you to create this new expanded vitality, this new level of abundance, this new level of energy and clarity and focus and momentum. So you'll see it's a combination, a combo package you get with me. And so we're going to dive a little bit in. And again, I always encourage you to get the most out of this workshop by actively doing the work, right? So I give you, there's a here, and actually, you know what? It brings me to the reminder. I'm going to put into the chat one more time our link for those of you for the workbook. Oh, wrong button I hit here. Where's the chat? Here we go. Into the chat, our workbook link, so you can get that there. Make sure that you're opening up the workbook, write it in, jot it down, have notes, use this time to actually create transformation for yourself, right? So that you see evidence of the results. So yeah, dive into the workbook. We are starting off, and I think we're on what page are we? This is page 22, 21 and 22 is where we're going to pick up for day 2, restoring your digestive fire. So let's kick it up. Let's dive in, ladies, and see what we've got going on here. Okay, we are going to share screen. Hopefully you've got that going on. Okay, cool. So you can see health as well. Give me the thumbs up. Yes. Okay, good. We're good with this screen. So day 2, health as wealth. And the first thing I want to invite you to do is contemplate if the circle represents how much time in a typical day you spend thinking about your health. And when I say your health, that means everything from focusing on, how you feel, including your symptoms, what's happening in your body, any of your current health situation. Just think about that. How much time would you say that you spend thinking about your health? If that's 100% is the whole circle, what would that look like for you? And then after, maybe it's 50%, maybe it's 30%, maybe it's 85%, I don't know what it is. Now, out of that percentage that's allocated to your health and your well-being, right? What percentage of the time do you have thoughts and feelings and expectations that are positive, that are affirmations, that are really encouraging, that are optimistic? And what percentage of the time do you feel like those thoughts or those expectations or the focus is negative? Maybe focusing on what you're worried about or where you're overwhelmed or what you don't know, or what's wrong. So just kind of shade it, like if it's, if your total allocation of your thought is, let's say 50%, how much of those 50% thoughts are like, hey, my legs are really strong. I'm feeling good today, versus, oh man, these pants don't fit the way I want. Right? So what is that allocation? And I'm just bringing this up to create some awareness. And I'll share with you what was true for me when I had my autoimmune diagnosis, and especially when my daughter went through her situation. What was true for is just living in this land of what I call the land of depletion, right? So when I first did this exercise that we're talking about, in terms of, I know someone just tuned in here, of how much time, if you were to take a circle and you're looking at the workbook, how much time do you spend thinking about your health or expecting or worried about your health? And then out of the total time focused on your health, your mental, physical, emotional well-being, what percentage of that is positive, affirmation, positive expectation, feels good? What percentage is negative, where you have worry or you're stressed or shame, or lack of clarity? For me, in the beginning, when I was struggling with my health, I would say 75% of my day, I was thinking about some form of my health, either my emotional health, my physical health, my spiritual health. Some form of health was dictating a lot of my day, but majority of that, you'll notice, was negative. I had a lot of shame, a lot of fear, a lot of guilt, and very, very small percentage of the time where I was like, oh, okay, like I feel clear, I feel confident, I know what I'm doing when it comes to my health. So just take a note here of where it's true for you today. Again, no judgment, awareness, right? We're all about building awareness, because that's what's going to help us. And at the end, we're going to come back and start to shift this and start to create. But I just want you to think about, like, what strikes you when you look at this circle? What awareness? And again, I'm going to put one more time into the chat in case you didn't get it or open it up. Here is the workbook for you to follow along. We are on page 23 of the workbook, so you can jot that in there. Okay, so this is the first exercise that we're talking about, is just building awareness of where we are mentally, physically, emotionally, and how our relationship to our own health right now. Now, again, going back to what we're here for this week, when your health declines, so does your earning power. So does your wealth in all areas of life. And we show some of these statistics. We went through them yesterday, but I think it's worth repeating for some new people that are tuning in. 24% of women in their 40s and their 50s take extended leave from work due to their own personal health challenges. often for over a month at a time. That's a significant amount of time to be incapacitated, not functioning, right? Women with hormone imbalances are 30% more likely to experience financial strain due to lower productivity and rising medical costs, not to mention relationship strain, right? When you are not at your best or have the ability to really maximize and show up with vibrancy, with love and with acceptance and energy, it definitely takes a toll on how you interact with other people who are most important in your life. And when your body and your hormones are out of balance, your work, your energy, and your income suffer. So healing your hormones is a power move. We talked about this yesterday. And we also talked about the nervous system and how at the core, being able to regulate a nervous system is an absolutely vital skill set to step into and to practice and to expand. And this is another kind of, I like to see graphics and visual representations of why this is so important. I love this visual understanding of the HPATG axis because it really does have the flow, or if you will, the congruency of how things signal in the body. If you notice, the hypothalamus is an organ that's a gland that's located in the brain. And the hypothalamus is really responsible for our thoughts and our perceptions and our beliefs about what's happening in our world, right? It's what we see things, how we interpret things, how we make sense of things, and that dictates then what's going to signal to the pituitary, another gland also located in the brain. The pituitary is really helping to orchestrate our neurology and our hormones, our endocrine system. So it's signaling about the physiological environment inside the body. So it's almost like it's getting input from our five senses about our external environment, from our environment. That's our thoughts, then kind of like filtering that through to make sense of it. And then the pituitary then responds with an internal signaling of neurotransmitters and hormones. Like, do we need to prepare to fight or flee? We're going to send a message to the adrenals to release more adrenaline, more norepinephrine, epinephrine, more cortisol if necessary, right? So what's happening at the top based on our perceptions of the external world is then going to signal to the pituitary, and then that signals to the adrenals, which help regulate our stress functions in the body, our immunity strength in the body. Then that signals to the thyroid, which is a large player with our metabolism and really all of the energetic processes in the system. We talked about yesterday how sluggish everything, including our brain, including our heart, including the most important processes in the system. And then finally, it goes down to the ovaries and the reproductive hormones, right? So you can see what is at the top of this filter, and that is the thoughts and beliefs and perceptions of our external environment. So that's why I like to show this in terms of this is what is a driving force in terms of the root cause of our physiology, of how our body is responding internally. And during this session, my goal is to help you understand how hormones work in your body and then share the 5 proven steps to naturally bring your hormones into balance. We are going to have simple actions that you can take to help sleep deeply, wake up feeling refreshed, to feel sexy and attractive and confident in your clothes, in your body, because you're just tuned into how your body is working with you to support you. Expand your wealth in all areas of life. As we talked about, when you have your health as a foundation, it opens up possibilities and doorways in every area of your life. Experience freedom from addictive cravings and also have confidence because you know your hormone health is being optimized. You have a game plan, you're living into that plan, and you feel good about it. So going through our 5-step process as a good reminder, yesterday we talked about uncovering some of these root causes, right? Looking at the nervous system, really starting to understand where do we fall into that why bother syndrome? Where do we hold ourselves back? What are some of the limitations? And we're going to go even deeper into that tomorrow as well. Also, we looked at some of the root cause in terms of, where we become dysregulated, and also what are we getting the nutrients in? Are they actually getting to our cells? We do micronutrient testing, for example, with our clients. So we know, like, if there there's not gas in the car can't go. Same thing with our cells. If we don't have the nutrients, then the cells can't do their job as designed. So step number 2 is getting those nutrients in, replenishing the PFFV approach, your simple one-hand meal plan that we talked about. That's a good foundational benchmark to start with. Now, today, step 3, we're doing restoring digestive fire. So we're going to be talking about how to maximize that absorption and support your gut health. And then tomorrow we'll be doing reset thinking. And then finally on Thursday, removing toxins. So stepping through each of these one step at a time, restoring digestive fire, because vibrant health is always linked to the health of your gut. So we're going to discover how to see if your digestion is one of the root causes of your hormone imbalance. Just like Amy did. And I always like to share stories because I feel like it brings things to like real life practicality. So Amy was a client who I worked with her last year, and she came to me when she was really just discouraged about her health. I mean, like I said, she had been fighting, you know, health symptoms, chronic health symptoms, and carrying extra weight for probably over 20, 25 years, many, many years. And her life was very chaotic. She tried everything. She felt like she's like, I have tried so many different diet programs, so many different medications. Like she, again, was on several medications to help with cholesterol and blood pressure and anxiety, different things. And she was like, I just haven't been able to create sustainable change. Like I've done Weight Watchers and dropped weight for a period of time, but then it always comes back and it comes back with more. Like I just can't find a rhythm. And part of it is because my life feels so chaotic. Like I don't feel grounded and clear. And so I didn't have the capacity to kind of keep up with things and just have it be a steady, consistent way of life. And she was ready to give up. I gotta be honest, like she was in a really, really uncomfortable place, but she knew like this has to change or my future, like I'm not going to be around the way I want to with my kids. I would be able to hike, and like we actually, it was one of the biggest beautiful things that she shared with me last year is after doing the work and after making massive change with her energy and her releasing weight and feeling so much more clear and calm. She's like, my family went on a vacation to Hawaii, and I literally was biking. I think it was I forget the name of the mountain. They biked down. She's like, a year ago, there's zero chance I would have physically been able to do that and to keep up. And she's like, and it felt so empowering. Like I'm truly living with more enjoyment in my life because I get these experiences and I get to share them with my kids and my husband. And that's what's most important, right? So talk about expanding her wealth. Now, again, she lost 50 pounds in 5 months. She has more energy to be a strong leader, not only a leader to her kids and her family, but also a leader in her role in her business. She is empowered to make different exercise and nutrient decisions, and she stepped into a new role at work and it increased her income. So again, transformation, like massive transformation that starts when she transforms her own health. And like I said, it's not just about weight loss. One of my clients found a lump in her breast, was scheduled for surgery. She was riddled with fear. I mean, talk about, I mean, it's definitely scary when there's, a concern that there may be a risk of cancer and there's a lump detected and we need to go have surgery and consider treatment options. And it's like, holy cow, like that throws my whole like future into a state of uncertainty and potential really scary situation. So it's like, I need to know what's going on. Like, what in the world could cause this? Like, let's build back the pieces, see what's happening in my body, see what my body needs to balance. And we're going to be talking more about these hormone levels, you'll see today. And so it's not just about weight loss. She shared this. I want to say thank you so much for your tools, your support, what I learned. And really, it was different. It was different because I had the combination of a game plan, knowing what my body needed, and also she had the brain support to make the changes, right? So that she could see no surgery was needed. Like my body was able to respond because I was able to do these things consistently. It wasn't like a start, stop, all or nothing type of approach, right? So she sidestepped the pain and the agony of a painful procedure. So again, going back to these steps, we're at step number 3. We're going to be looking at digestive fire and gut health today and how that has linked to all health, but especially our hormones, what factor they play. So the health of your digestion is central to the health of your entire body and your mind. All disease begins in the gut And conversely, most all disease can be healed in the gut. So when we support our gut, this is really, really, really impactful for the whole entire body. And this was Hippocrates. So this has been around. This is not new information. This has been around for centuries. So gut health and hormone health. Again, what are some of the connections? Well, wellness begins in the gut because the gut is how we start to nourish every single cell in the body, right? The cells need to be nourished so that they can work well. Digestion, also think about digestion, because when we're talking about digestive capacity, that's your ability to break down food so that your cells can receive and absorb the nutrients from food, right? But most of us often forget that digestion begins in the mouth. It's how you are chewing and literally breaking down your food, because most of us eat unconsciously. It's just like a byproduct. You don't even have to think and pay attention. So, and I'm guilty of this. A lot of it's like chomp, chomp, swallow, chomp, chomp, swallow. And unintentionally, you're swallowing big clumps of food, which put a much greater demand on the stomach and the rest of your digestive system to continue to do a lot of work to continue to break it down, right? So the more that you are present when consuming and start with chewing your food, like to the point where it's almost liquefied, that's a tremendous help that you give your digestive system. That's a way that you can consciously help your body to work better. I literally have my clients do an almond test. I say, take 2 almonds, eat them like you normally would. Now take 2 almonds again and chew it 20 times and then swallow and see what you notice about the difference in consistency. Hands down, everyone comes back to me and they're like, holy cow, I didn't even realize. And almonds, it's not like almonds are that big, but you're chewing like a clump versus it being almost liquefied in your mouth and chewing. So that's just one thing that we can consciously collaborate with and partner with our bodies to help in the digestive process. It goes a long way to help your gut health and your microbiome health. And then the gut feeling and the brain axis, the gut brain axis is a real thing. And here's why. Because the enteric nervous system is responsible for making a lot of our brain chemicals, including serotonin and dopamine and different neurotransmitters and hormones. If, for example, 90% of our serotonin, which is a lot of people think of serotonin as the happy hormone, right? It is synthesized in the gut, which means we have to have certain materials present in order to make serotonin in the gut so that it can then be transported to the brain. And serotonin helps to regulate sound, or I'm sorry, pain regulation. It helps with consistent and steady sleep. It gives you a balanced mood. All of these things are influenced by what's happening or what's present and available in your gut, right? And also, another interesting side note, are microbial genes. We talk about the microbiome, right? That's all the bacteria and species and viruses and different organisms that are present inside our body. That microbacteria is so prolific. It's kind of like mind-blowingly to conceptualize, but our microbial genes, in other words, the genes inside those microscopic organisms, those little bugs, outnumber our own human genes by 300 times. There's that many more of them. And our health depends greatly on their health and their balance because they regulate vitamins, they regulate hormones, they regulate so many different processes in the system, in our system. So if we're not feeding those bugs or feeding the bugs that for a good, healthy balance of bacteria and viruses and different species, then they're not going to be able to have the byproduct our bodies need to work well, right? So we're codependent, essentially. Also, the gut is responsible for one of the biggest detoxification pathways in the body. One of the ways that body gets rid of toxins and excess hormones, which we're going to be talking about when we have excess estrogen, is through packaging up the compounds in the second phase of liver detoxification. Actually, we talked about the liver and how important the liver is to support hormone health. Part of it is because the liver packages up and processes, gets rid of excess toxins and excess hormones to be excreted from the body. I'll just share this as a side note, just to kind of tune in here. So like, for example, in my daughter's situation, where I talked about how my daughter initially had seizures, like she was having so many 10 to 15 seizures in a day. It was massively overwhelming. And a huge part of her healing journey to rebuild health was to help make sure she was consuming not enough protein to rebuild new neural pathways in the brain so that it wouldn't fire the pathways that led to a seizure activity, to have new ones being built, but also to help reduce the level of adrenaline and anxiety and cortisol in her body, because she had so much of these hormone metabolites that were just getting reabsorbed and reabsorbed because they were packaging up. It's kind of like if your kitchen has a garbage and you have a garbage bag, right? And probably every time you're doing stuff, you put the waste in the garbage bag, and then you take out the garbage bag and you move it out to the curb on trash day, right? Well, that's what the liver does. The liver kind of packages it up, bundles up the toxins, excess hormones that have already been excreted and already been used to trigger a stress response in the body. Now they're a metabolite. They're supposed to be excreted so they don't get reabsorbed and trigger another stress response in the body. Instead of them being packaged up and moved to the curb, it's like on the way to the curb, someone took it and ripped open the package, and those metabolites got reabsorbed back into the bloodstream and triggered another sympathetic stress response in the body. So her body became so quick to react. If you ever find yourself where you're in a place of like, it seems like you're reacting to anything, a drop of a hat. For me, I can acknowledge, like, looking back, I now see it. When I was younger, when I had my autoimmune diagnosis, I had young kids, right? My girls were little. And little girls can be loud, like they would play and they would laugh, even if they were sometimes like happy and laughing. I was so sensitive to noise at certain periods that I would be like really snippy. I'd be like, girls, quiet down, quiet down. And I'd like be really harsh with them, because literally my sensory overload, if you think of your five senses, what you can see, what you can taste, what you can touch, what you can smell, and what you can feel, that I just was on a sensory overload because I had so much excess epinephrine cranking through my system and being reabsorbed. Same thing with my daughter. Like, it was very easy to trigger an overload that sent her brain into seizure activity. In her case, it was a seizure. In my case, it was more autoimmune, like activation, right? For some people, it's more anxiety. Whatever it is, it's almost like we needed to excrete some of those metabolites and get them out of the body, so you weren't just kind of piling up, if that makes sense, right? So I'll kind of go back, but I just wanted a side note there to say why it's important to think about the excretion process. Another thing here, when we think about other hormones, I was talking about more like the stress hormones, but beta glucuronidase, this is an enzyme that's located in the colon, and it's created from the balance of our gut microbes, and it facilitates the breakdown of complex carbohydrates. So it's helpful. We all have some beta glucuronidase in our colon. We want some because it helps to break down complex carbohydrates. However, if we get an imbalance of beta glucuronidase, where there's too much of this particular type of enzyme, because of the way that we're feeding our body, or because of the certain physiological environment that's being created in the gut, then it can cause an elevation of estrogen, because that particular enzyme unlocks the junctions that basically, when the liver took the estrogen metabolites and packaged it up to be excreted and said, okay, time to take you to the curb, this enzyme breaks that bag. It's kind of like it says, takes the garbage bag, like I said, and like rips it open, so all the garbage falls all over the kitchen. So it kind of rips it open so it gets absorbed again. So estrogen continues to get reabsorbed in the body. And why does that matter? Well, when we think about the hormone balance is key, right? We want to have a balance between estrogen and progesterone, ideally. There's going to be ebbs and flows in your menstrual cycle, or especially if you're entering perimenopause and then after menopause, there's going to be shifts and changes. But the relative ratio of the two is important. And here's why. Because estrogen has certain effects and progesterone has different effects. They complement each other. You'll notice one stimulates breast cell growth, one protects against breast fibroids and other extraneous growth. So like for my client who avoided a lumpectomy surgery, she had massive estrogen dominance. Too much breast cells kept growing and growing and growing and creating this lump. Well, once we bring that into balance and our body can naturally keep that excess growth in check because she had adequate progesterone levels, then that lump disappeared, right? So you can see some of the balance is key here. So we don't want your gut to actually impede the balance between estrogen and progesterone because of this enzyme is one example, right? So you can see that this balance, and when we think here's some other effects of estrogen. Estrogen helps to retain bone cell loss, so it's really good. Progesterone helps to stimulate new bone growth, right? So we have different things. When you think about anxiety, when we have excess estrogen, it can lead to more headaches and increased anxiety. Progesterone is a natural calming agent. It naturally is an antidepressant, right? So we can see how different things work in balance with each other. And also, it's important to know there are differences in the world that we live in today. Because if we think about even 100 years ago, most girls began their menses, their menstruation around age 16. They had earlier and more frequent pregnancies, which meant usually during pregnancy and even during breastfeeding, they were not ovulating, so they didn't have as many menstrual cycles. There was earlier menopause around age 45, shorter lifespan, and typically around 200 menstrual cycles in a woman's life cycle. But if you look at today, what's more typical is many girls begin their menstruation earlier, around age 12. They have fewer, if any, pregnancies. Some women don't have any pregnancies. Some women have one or two children. Less or shorter periods of breastfeeding. So it means less times where they're not having the ovulation. It's kind of like paused. Later menopause for many women, around closer to age 52 is the norm. Longer lifespan. And typically we have an exposure to 400 menstrual cycles now in the current season of how women's lives are. So that's like double, right? Double the amount of hormone fluctuation and shifting and changing for the body to respond and to adapt to. Not only that, we also live in a life where there's more stress, right? When we have more stress, progesterone naturally tends to be deprioritized. And we have more xenoestrogens. We're going to be talking about these in day 4 on Thursday about removing toxins and where are ways that we can reduce the total toxic burden because many things act as like a mimicker to estrogen. So they're called xenoestrogens. So you can see that there's a major increase in exposure to hormone fluctuations, especially estrogen, during the life that we're living in now. It makes sense that our response, the way we support our own health and our bodies, has to be different than what our mothers did or what our grandmothers did. The world we live in is different, right? So it's only logical. When we think about gut health and hormone imbalance, excess estrogen is often found to block proper thyroid function. Yesterday we talked about thyroid function, right? Thyroid is important for metabolism. It's important for mental clarity. It's important for great strong cardiovascular health. If we have too much estrogen, especially as compared to progesterone, this can get in the way. Beta-glucuronidase is created by unhealthy gut microbiome. Diets high in sugar, processed foods, alcohol, and significant amounts of meat can increase this enzyme. So thinking about it, and again, this is an example. I like to give examples. So this is just, a client example. So if you look at, this is a Dutch hormone test, something that we do with many of our clients to see where their body is with regards to their hormone balances and how their body can process or detoxify and remove hormones. So you'll look in this particular client example at the top, let's see, at this top corner right here is showing progesterone. So ideally your ranges are between the two yellow stars in the green range. So she has very low levels of progesterone. The yellow star is even below, it's almost close to the period or to the menopause space, which is the purple box. But you'll see her estrogen levels, right? They're all off the charts. They're even higher than the typical normal optimal range. So the difference between her estrogen and her progesterone is radical. And then further down, it shows how well is her body able to excrete and move out? There's different pathways to excrete estrogen. Is it doing it effectively or not? So we can see, do we need to have some support here? Are there key nutrients that are missing? Does the gut health need to be optimized, right? In this case, absolutely. So it's helpful to get some data to see where we're at, just like Stacy did. She was able to become empowered, understand what her body needed, understand what her body was, and she was before was hypertensive, struggling to keep up with vague advice from doctors who kept telling her to lose weight, to eat less, exercise more, to manage her hypertension and to reduce her cholesterol. And that was vague. That didn't help. So after she had clarity, she saw what her body needed. We came up with a game plan. She was able to drop her cholesterol by 70 points, get off of her high blood pressure medication, lost 38 pounds. In fact, I actually just talked to her this morning. She's down another 7 and started a new job and saved money by eliminating medication. So again, her whole life transformed because she had clarity and a game plan, right? Gut health and hormone imbalance. Typically 1 to 2 bowel movements each day are a positive sign of gut health. We want to make sure that we are having regular bowel movements because that's a sign that things are processing and moving through the gut. Stool tests can also be very useful to assess your body's unique hormone considerations. So if there are other considerations beyond what you can find, stool tests can give us some more information about that. So in the workbook, again here, we want to think about testing your digestion. If you have 2 or more of these signs on the next 2 slides, then there's a chance that you may have some digestive microbiome imbalance and could use some support. So these are signs that you need to address your digestion quickly. First is unexplained weight gain. If you have constipation or struggle with that, bloating, feeling bloating, having water retention in the body. If you have sluggish energy or fatigue frequently, experience indigestion, ulcers, reflux, again, that's a sign that something is not optimal in the digestive tract. Cravings for salt, sugar, caffeine, difficulty fighting infection. This is also another key thing. Things like asthma, allergies, chronic cough, and here's why, because our digestive system is also home to our immune system. 85% of our immune system is located along the GI tract. And because that makes sense, right? That's where things from the external world come into the body. So it's like almost like they're gonna like line the boundaries, the army of the immune system. And our passive immunity is based on how effective our digestive functions are operating. So if we have really poor or weak immunity, then we're more at risk for different infections and asthma and allergies and things like that. And if we have identified either low thyroid function, high or low cortisol, excess estrogen, or excess testosterone. Again, going back to yesterday, we did the hormone assessment. If you see some of those things based on your symptoms, chances are we want to see what's going on in the gut because there may not be good balance and good detoxification happening. So what do we want to think of just in terms of what can you do today? I want to give you some practical things that you can do right away to help just support gut health. The first one, like I said, is chew your food. This is the only conscious part of the digestive process that you can influence. Because once it goes down into your stomach, you can't control how much stomach acid is available. You can't control how much the pancreas is releasing digestive enzymes. You can't control all the other stuff that's happening, right? But you can control how you chew your food. So that's a huge support, collaboration with your body. Sit down and be present when eating. This, again, helps put us into that parasympathetic. So we're in that rest and digest and that absorb state of being, instead of trying to multitask and do 2 different things or have your mind be reliving a conversation from the day before that's stressing you out. That's automatically going to put your body in fight or flight, which means your body is it's not prioritizing absorption. It's not putting that as a top of the list thing to do. So being present when you eat. Include PFFV, the protein, fiber, fat, vegetable at every meal. This is going to give you those core foundational nutrients that your gut needs to feed the microbiome, to feed all those microbial species, and help balance things out. Maintain a 90-10 balance of real whole foods that your great grandmother would recognize, things that don't have a bunch of weird names and words that you can't pronounce on the label. Those are usually not things that your body can recognize either, right? And then assess lab work to refine your focus and improve your results. If you're doing these things and you feel like I'm doing them and I've been doing them consistently and I still have symptoms, I still have challenges, then it's about getting more information, getting more clarity, right? So you can refine and refocus. So we're going to go back here to the exercise that you did in the beginning. Again, creating some space so that you create real, true change. And true change happens when we understand what needs to change. So first, like I said, in the beginning, this is where I was massively living in the land of depletion instead of the land of vitality. The land of depletion is when you're just like your body is not working with you. It feels like you're almost like fighting it, or it doesn't feel possible for you to feel calm, centered, grounded, confident, good in your body. Here's the land of depletion. You can point to any of the following as having limited your belief in your own vibrant health or your vitality to this point. I want you to think about your family, your society, your trauma, ancestral learnings, culture, education, other influences. And here's what I'll just share. Like in my experience, I lived in the land of depletion. I was chronically stressed about my energy, my health. I mean, I definitely had alternating bouts of constipation and diarrhea. I wasn't sleeping. I had insomnia. I felt irritated in these days. And I would honestly like snap at my girls. Like they were, and look back at that, I'm like, they were young children. And I was just really, I had such a short fuse because I was in that fight or flight response all the time. And I was constantly overstimulated. I often then would feel shame because I compared myself to other moms or just other women in general. And I thought like, it seemed like it comes easier for them, or at least easier than it did for me. Like, what is wrong with me? Why am I so like in such poor shape and poor health and just not feeling good, right? And honestly, I can look back and I can see now a combination of different things. It was a combination. It was like my family's upbringing, which loved them dearly, but they didn't prioritize healthy eating, open communication, like really good emotional stability. That it just wasn't role modeled. It wasn't something that I saw. It wasn't like a healthy lifestyle priority of like, okay, we do our meditation and we take time to like talk about our feelings and we go to get fresh air and get outside and we sit down and we chew intentionally and we pray before like it just wasn't modeled healthy lifestyle, right? Society was part of my programming that I had to deprogram. Like I just naturally kind of thought like, okay, as you get older, especially after 40, like your health is going to decline. That's just what happens with them. They get older, they don't feel as good, they have more aches and pains, their body breaks down. Right. For me, it was also trauma. Like I experienced trauma when I had this autoimmune diagnosis and was told that was the start, and likely I would have additional diagnosis and be on medication for life. Like so I started to not trust my body. I felt like my body is attacking itself, so I can't trust my body, right? Another thing was honestly ancestral beliefs that I wasn't conscious to it, but it was like inherited. Like I thought as a wife and as a mom, I need to put everyone else's needs before my own. And so that was just kind of like everyone else took a higher priority than my own well-being and my own health. I also lacked education. At the time, I just thought, it's genetics. This is just what it was. There's nothing I can do about it. I didn't have the education to know that, no, actually, your genes are either turned on or not turned on. Like, yes, you do, and you do inherit a genetic profile, but whether those genes are activated or not is dependent upon your lifestyle choices and 95% of the time, right? So there's actually so much more that you can control and that you have influence over than it just being like an automatic, like it's predestined for you. And also culture. Like I thought for a long time, the doctors and the specialists are the ones that know more about my body. I don't know anything. They're the ones that tell me what to do. And it was a sense of like disassociation. I didn't know until I had to learn that I can actually be the one who knows the most because I'm the one living in my body every day, and I can like kind of put the pieces together and work with specialists and work with health professionals to come up with a game plan that's going to fit the body and fit my lifestyle and fit my needs. So I want to invite you to take a moment here, and this is on page 24 of your workbook. There is this a couple boxes where it says the land of depletion, the land of vitality. And just I'll give us like 1 minute here to jot down, are any of these things, like when you think of like your past family beliefs or your brain or your cultural inherited beliefs and perspectives, your education, any of these things, messages that you've picked up that you think have created your current experience or responsible for your expectations to date about your health. And these are ones that we want to perhaps shift and reprogram new ones that will be more useful for you, just like I've been able to do and my clients. So just take a moment to think about, there's boxes there for each of them. Like what stands out for you? All right, and I'm going to move a little quickly because I know we're a little quick on time here. So I'm going to kind of keep us moving and go back to sharing my screen and talk about, okay, the land of vitality. This is where we want to shift to, right? We want to move from the land of depletion to the land of vitality. And this is where you get to be a full-time resident in the land of vitality. This is where the good thing is it's free to everyone. It's available to everyone. You have every resource that you need and you have a desire, then you can learn to immerse yourself in this new land of vitality, right? It's just about understanding what it is, what it looks like, and how to practice living in it. So today we're going to talk about immersion. I want you to think about eating, breathing, sleeping, steeping yourself in vitality. Because when you live this way, it changes so much about your experience. And here are some of the foundations to support your accelerated residency in the land of vitality instead of staying in the land of depletion. Right? We want to help you up level your health and create true transformation. And I know that your next health up level comes from one of two things. Either it's going to be an internal catalyst, like you've made the decision and you're going to clarify what your land of vitality is, and you're going to practice being in it and living in it and immersing yourself in it every day. Or there's going to be an external catalyst. In my past, it took an external catalyst in order to move me forward into the land of vitality. I needed something to shake me outside the head, was my own autoimmune diagnosis. And then that started to shake, but what didn't rattle me enough, it was my daughter's seizures of like, dude, wake up. You got to start doing something different. There's more to the story here, right? It's not just a matter of an elimination diet and take these supplements. There's more to the picture here. So it took that external catalyst for me to be able to build a breakthrough. But when you think about up-leveled health, you can choose to create an internal breakthrough. You can say, hey, my life, this is God's gift to me. God gave me life, right? But how you choose to live your life with your fullest expression of passion, of vitality, of creativity, of love, I think that is your gift to the world. So I want you to think about, what does a health up level, and I'm just using the word up level in terms of like your next progression, where you feel on fire, you feel fantastic, you feel full of abundance in all the ways in your life. What does that look like for you? Get clear, get specific. How big is the change? What are some of the new distinctions? What do you notice about your life? What knowledge have you gained? What skills do you now practice regularly that maybe you didn't have the skill? Maybe it's a skill of preparing healthy PFFV meals. Maybe I have a skill of cooking, but I never really thought about coordinating meals that are intentional to nourish my body's needs, right? What is that skill set, right? What are you practicing regularly? So thinking about these different things, I'm just posing questions to have you, and again, I invite you to sit with this. I'm going to kind of move quickly because we're coming up here on the top of the hour. But as you start, notice this, as soon as you start to move in the direction of your next level, something new, even just thinking about it, This is going to trigger the amygdala. The amygdala part of the brain is what we think of as the reptilian part of the brain. And every possibility is going to come up and start springing up of like, why this won't work, what can go wrong, what you be afraid of, what relationships, like for me, it was like, oh my gosh, like my family thinks I'm nuts because I'm always packing extra food. When I was doing my elimination diet, like right when I first started, I was like, I felt very isolated. I felt different. It felt hard, right? People aren't going to accept me in the same way. It might be fear of like, I don't know if I can commit to this. I don't know if I can make the changes. Well, you just need to take one step at a time. Anything is going to pop up in your mind. Just know that this is the formula. As soon as you start to move in the direction of something new, your amygdala is going to freak out and it's going to start to show you all the reasons why it won't work for you, what can go wrong, what you should be afraid of. And if you start to notice that, guess what? You're on track. That means you're doing the right thing to move towards your health outlook because your hypothalamus is going to start to show you all of the thoughts and the beliefs and the fears that you've had. They've been there before. Like I said, we talked about those boxes, the traumas, the ancestral beliefs, the societal expectations, what you learned. That's why we're bringing those to the surface because we can't change them if we don't know what they are. But as soon as you start to move forward, all of those are going to be brought to the surface, which can be scary and uncomfortable, or it can be like, oh, I know that this is the process because they can't change unless I know what they are. So just know that that's going to happen. Remember, your life is God's gift to you. You were built for this next level. Even if your amygdala is freaking out, changes won't hurt you, even if it feels emotionally uncomfortable. Because every single time, where the magic is, what you're desiring is outside of your comfort zone bubble. I like this picture here because your comfort zone is what you already know. Your amygdala tries to keep you safe. If you're safe, guess what? You're alive. Even if you don't like some of the things about your life or your health or your body right now, you're alive. Your amygdala is keeping you alive and it knows what you've been doing, so you're safe. Anytime you try to change that and do something different, move through that bubble of where the magic is, it's different, it's new, it's uncertain, it's unknown. The amygdala will freak out. And sometimes I back down because I have fear of overwhelm or I have criticism and I feel isolated from my loved ones. Some circumstances I feel like, oh, I don't have the time, I don't have the money, I don't have the knowledge. Those are all amygdala freakouts. Those are all excuses, right? It's not a sign to stop. It's a sign that you're actually on the right track. Your amygdala is just trying to keep you in your comfort zone. So remember, God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. So if you have a desire for a change in your health, that means you've been called to step into something new and different and more abundant for your life. And He's going to qualify you on your journey. Trust that, right? So now for creating your new alter ego, I like to think of creating an alter ego as something to step into, almost like putting on your cape, right? Putting on your costume. Like it doesn't have to be Amanda that does all this because Amanda freaks out. My amygdala has not done this before. And I know I'm going to get all the overwhelm, all the doubt, all the reasons why it's not possible, it doesn't work for my body. But we're going to visualize what your life will look like at this new, what's happening in your life. What are you wearing? What are you doing? What's different? What's better? How does this feel? And I invite you to give yourself the gift of 10 minutes today. If not immediately after our session, sit down tonight with the workbook or journal and just write this out. Because this is how you immerse yourself in this. We have to actually practice knowing what it is before we can expect to have it, right? And this is what I call our activation power, stepping into your alter ego, like almost like you're going to step into a cape and say, you know what? I would say like, I mean, it doesn't, for me, first it was health journey, then it's business journey. parenting journey. It's like anytime I'm like, okay, Amanda doesn't know what to do in this situation, but my alter ego is Magic Mandy. When I was 11 by Mandy, and magic just seems like fun and like, like new and exciting things are possible. So my alter ego name is Magic Mandy, right? So I want you to think about, what is your alter ego name? What is a new identity that you can practice living into and being and stepping into? And then what are these areas? What are the values? What does this version of you value? What are the thoughts that she has? What beliefs does she have? What beliefs doesn't she have? Right? I used to have a belief that I was almost living in a land of overwhelm all the time. I'm always overwhelmed. I have too much to do. I have too much to do. Well, now Magic Mandy has a belief that there's always plenty of time for the things that are the highest priority. And if there's not enough time, it wasn't a highest priority. It didn't need to be done by me today. Maybe it's something that someone else can be responsible for, or it's something I delegate to God, right? What are the skills? What are the support? What are the attire? How does she show up day in and day out? What are the feelings and the habits that this version of you lives with and embodies, right? And we have to get clear, because if we don't get clear on this, you can't live into it. You can't immerse yourself in this new land of vitality if you don't know what it is, right? So I invite you to name your alter ego. Like I said, mine's Magic Mandy. You can pick 2 words, you can pick a title, you can pick a name and a quality, you can pick a name and a hero. These are just some examples, right? But as you practice every single day to the best of your ability, and it won't be perfect and it doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be an attempt to live into this version of you, your identity, because your identity always drives your behavior. We can start to have these action steps that we think would be good for us and that would be useful to do some meal planning and to get to the gym or go out for my walk or whatever the things are. But if you haven't stepped into this new identity, I'm Magic Mandy. What does Magic Mandy do? Magic Mandy goes for a walk every morning, rain or shine, below -2 degrees or 90 degrees. Magic Mandy goes for a walk every day, right? That's my identity. That's just who I am. You think of your identity as I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a business owner, I'm a daughter. Like that's just, you just know that that's just who I am. That's what we want our identity to drive our thoughts, just like it did with Shannon, right? Shannon massively charged up her identity. I mean, her energy, her identity and her energy. And she started sleeping through the night. Like she had this place where she was just in a spiral, right? Really feeling depleted, really run down, overwhelmed chronically, and became clear, calm, present. She led her business and her team to 2 times the impact and income because she was a different person when her health changed, right? So I invite you to think about that today. I know we're right up at the top of the hour, but that's why I like to take this time. Yes, we talk about the digestion. Yes, we talk about how important it is to stop and chew your food. But the reality is, if you don't have the identity that's going to practice these choices, these decisions, and these behaviors, you can talk about the science all day long. It doesn't really matter if it doesn't go into practice, right? So I invite you to take 10 minutes today, sit with really clearing out what are some of the old thoughts, beliefs, and perceptions from my inherited like past that I didn't even realize were affecting me. And what is this new alter ego identity that I get to step into? All right, so excited to be here with you today. Enjoy, and can't wait to see you again tomorrow. We're going to go even deeper on step number 4, which is resetting and getting the brain science around locking this in. Now that we've clarified some of the new thoughts and beliefs, we want to lock it in. All right, see you tomorrow and have a great one.